To consider the darkness of my language this close to the sun is blasphemous. These are the only words memorized and repeated in rapid recitation, sometimes in rhythm with invisible drums, or sung from the bottom of a boat or ravine. Wherever my discarded ancestors' carcasses lay, I wonder if the sun-bleached bones of disappeared black girls miss their melanin. Do they retain the sensation of double dutch and drill team, once absorbed by now dehydrated marrow? 2. The only words I know are painted in the color of my perspective. Rose-colored lenses affirm drunken genealogy lessons, how we came to have Indian in our family. New Jersey girl's great-great-great-grandmother, was she Cherokee? How you get good hair? Slave woman? Black woman? Something or other? Was she special? New Mexican, New Jersey shade of brown girl standing face to face with members of the First Nations in the flesh tone who know the meaning of their names and do not need me as kin to validate self. File this feeling of shame of all the shades insecurity might turn a face, disgraceful. So you learn things about language when you breathe new air. The weight of distribution shifts. The output of lungs might elevate you with warmth and splendor. Hot air balloons in winter escape you after sunrise, leave you abandoned, deflated. My first meeting, I am often empty and off course. The wind refusing my fare. If I drop the weight of my nose ring and hoops, sterling hilt, silver set stones, all this hair, if I could say the words that I know true and simultaneously inoffensive, if I could lighten the discoloration, lance the infection site with it, soothe the tender and swollen thing that's festering, use the words I know again, and levitate, unafraid. Often the only, but always the same. These words are all I have, every syllable an anchor, syntax rescued from a deluge of blood, burdened down like Monday morning hangovers, dangling 164 pounds of Sandra Bland's corpse, testing the fortitude of a trash can liner. It's heavy like that some days. Death drop in the pit of your stomach. Will you accept the charges, phone calls, and parenthetical bank balances? You think maybe tomorrow we can call my daddy? Picking Powerball numbers from unarmed victims' ages because there were too few indictments. 16, 22, 28, 43, 50, Powerball, 12. All of the songs I sing sound best in minor keys, so the words are so heavy. Maybe that's the reason my voice so deep.
I told you that she was gonna come up here and puncture your chakras like really hard. I wasn't lying. Wow. I think we gotta like vibrate with that for just a minute. I'm gonna invite everybody to take a deep breath with me. You gotta feel that sometimes. You gotta let that sink in. Now, I want you to listen up to the next poet on this stage. The next poet on this stage is not just a poet. He's a musician. He's an artist. He's an architect. He's an amazing poet. I want you to put your hands together. Listen up closely to John Barney.
Good afternoon. I also had my transportation issues coming here from, I call here, this is the northernmost neighborhood in our metro area. It's a very quirky, an extraordinary neighborhood. If you're in Seattle or Los Angeles, an hour is not long to drive, across, one side of the community to the other. We just have a lot of unique communities in between, and a lot of junipers, and a lot of dirt roads in between, but it's all one metro area, so I'm really glad to be here. The poem that I think I'm going to read, the last time I read it here, I was actually riding my bike, and I actually thought that Albuquerque is a terrifying place to ride a bike. But Santa Fe is even more terrifying, oh my God. I mean, you know, I was riding up to 10,000 Waves from all the way downtown, and it was like, on Paseo de Peralta, it was like, anyway, so this is called riding my bike to my massage, and it starts with a prayer to Ganesh. Om Gam Pata Namaha.
Riding my bike to my massage, I try to let go into the flow of my city, of coming down concrete arroyo, but the surface is not so smooth. So every two stanzas I'm going to hit Om, and I want you to start hitting that with me. And it is all so tense crossing Eubank, construction blocks, traffic, all the fucking cars between me of Constitution and the ankle of Indian school. Om. There are hardened dips ensue for water that has been lacking, adductor connectors to school playgrounds and local parks, tenuous at best. Oh. Couples with dogs and kids clatter over passing bridge that connects leg joints going over high-volume interstates. How to pull back, put in reverse here where my quads are so ropey. Oh. Passing by broken prostate pavement, a fatherless child looking for love among the ruins of aging fairground. A woman crying, yelling at two men yelling. Oh. All the shadows seeking blessed release from imaginary organs. Pubis erectus, iliacus, all wanting to be relieved of the trafficking off lomus. Transversals and obliques of small streets connecting to central. How to clear a way here for serenity and gardens of needed healing. Oh. Emerging onto arterial crowded by tingling truck and self-serve storefront, a rapid ride bus surges like a wave of feeling from the heart. Oh. How to let this pass too without being swept away as I turn left onto achy Richmond and then right onto the sore lumbar of Silver. Oh. And then into the overflex and cramped latissimus dorsi of the back office slot. Dismounting, I enter and shed clothing as I mount the table and wait for my city to be touched, rubbed whole, and filled with light. Oh. Oh. Gam. Gana. Pata. Nama. Everybody. Oh. Gam. Gana. Pata.
I'm a bad host. I don't really know what else to say. Damn. Hey, we're back. What's up? Okay, I was gonna tell you that I know that there's some lovely merch in the back there. If you want to listen to poems, stretch your legs, and take book. I know some folks have things for sale, so feel free to do that. And we're going to keep moving forward on our list here. So I have the honor of introducing Santa Fe poet and publisher. Please give it up for John Macker.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill, and everybody for putting this together today. Two poems. One's a eulogy for our friend, New Mexico compadre, Stuart Warren. It's called Abundance. An 80-year-old woman in New Mexico does Tai Chi in the dog park in an abundance of presence, shares the rhythms of her age, gathers in, and then releases the shiftless summer air. In Iceland, activists hold a funeral for a famous glacier, and on the permanent plaque they placed in English and Icelandic is written to the children, "Only you know if we did it." In Auden's memorial poem to Yeats, he wrote, "Mad Ireland hurt you into poetry." And out the window, a police car siren's pulsating shriek cleaves the morning into two organic halves. One an act of faith, and the other not so much. We were instructed by the nuns to say a prayer or cross ourselves every time we heard one, until the danger became innocent, whispered echo, as if nobody had been hurt. Ireland will plant 400 million trees in the next 20 years to combat climate change. And so many more will recognize El Teguello when they hear it than those who've memorized the second coming. And a poet friend in New Mexico in his last days of hospice always traveled his own rivers. Now they change course and fill him with their own abundance and tell him we have only so much time in this world. And the purple morning uplifted cosmos petals a day after rain, and the land which has withstood the emancipation of all these latest hells never stops singing. Thank you. This is a poem to Chet Baker, trumpet player extraordinaire. Chet Baker used to bend over his horn like the saddest, most suffering flower, speak into it like an echo does in dream, coaxing faded blossoms from the air and gathering them in breath to the place on earth he felt closest to, trembling with shadows, and then mutate their fragrances into a civilization of invisible words, as if every spring trigger-fingered Aprils bent their music to the ground, coaxing forth rose after rose, and their powder-burned faces, bold, fragrant, strained, maverick, outlaw, delivering echo after echo. Chet sounded the blues, and he riffed circles around the discordant rainbows of romance in the dark until they drifted so close you could pluck them like strings. Standing there, street lamp insouciant, smoking the heroin gun of Paris, blowing interstellar lullabies, working his own myth into the hard ground. While I'm bent over this ancient jukebox in the Lariat bar, hit parade reduced to a row of square buttons I punch into entropy. And at last, I find Chet as he empties a chamber of pure blue language onto a white tablecloth. And he opens the window to each new bloom with his lips as he always has, saying something pure to the earth, knowing no surrender is a cliche. No surrender is a cliche. He had chiseled features, and there's a plaque for him in Amsterdam outside the Hotel Prince Hendrik. At the last spot, he soared through life on his way to the ground. Thank you very much.
Let's give John another round of applause. Make some noise. Now, there was a time when some of the most famous poets in the world thought of New Mexico as the Mecca to come to recite their poetry. And the reason they thought of New Mexico as a Mecca to recite their poetry was because they used to have the Taos Poetry Circus here in New Mexico. And the Taos Poetry Circus was where I saw some of the greatest poets I've ever seen in my life, like Saul Williams and Pat Payne, and I saw Sekou Sundiata, I saw Suhir Hamad, these great poets that I only knew from like reading them in books and watching them on TV. And then there were always legends about how back in the day, Lawrence Ferlinghetti and Jack Kerouac went through the Taos Poetry Circus. And so it was this great, amazing, and in fact, that was where they invented the poetry as competitive performance art competition in that way. It was beautiful. But I'm here today to introduce to you one of the founders of the Taos Poetry Circus, and she's gonna be reading a poem by her husband, Peter Rabbit. Put your hands together for Ann McNaughton. Thank you.
Well, I am impressed. Another first, poetic first for New Mexico. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, when I first met Manuel, he was the age that his daughter is now. It was a while ago. Yes. My name is Ann McNaughton. I'm a writer from Taos and was Peter Rabbit's life partner and his literary executor. So I will be reading from the primary posthumous piece published by poet Peter Rabbit. Rabbit was a writer, a farmer, and well-known entheogen enthusiast. If you don't know what that means, that's a biomedical term for what we used to call psychedelics. Who founded art colonies and communes and spent the last 3 decades of his life in Taos, where he composed this work in his final years, and that's what that looks like. Cabeza de Vaca was the lapsed conquistador shipwrecked on Galveston Island in 1528. He and his 3 companions walked across the North American continent. Naked and starving, they traded and did faith healing in order to survive. This is their tale, told in the voices of 6 characters. I'm going to read a short bit from it. So this is Cabeza de Vaca. And so it was, I consumed the plants, entered their spirits, and was thereby changed forever. Plants communicating with humans, showing the way. The idea was preposterous, perhaps insane, but I have allowed those plants to influence every thought and action. Any questions? Eat more peyote. Plants with the power to alter consciousness, indeed, to alter reality, have become my advisors, my refuge and strength. One of the characters is Estebanico, who was actually a slave of the 3 surviving Spaniards in that expedition. Amor. My boy, so this is Estebanico. My boy, Cabeza, says this is the time for truth-telling, for laying down what really went down, holding nothing back. Nunez says loud and clear, the truth-telling window is open. No king, no pope, no thought police. Be who you are, hold nothing back. Been a slave as long as I can remember. That makes for a certain fuck you attitude. Truly, since someone else owns me, I got nothing to lose. When I check out, it's a loss to the boss, not to me. Circumstance and chance dropped me off on this strange continent, land without end, Stone Age people who've never seen a white man, let alone a Moor. Cabeza de Vaca. I explored the new world naked. I never met an Indio I didn't like or couldn't cure. 5 Hail Marys, Our Fathers, 5, Credo, and Unum Deum, good as new. The new world was full of new old things. I reconnected with the power to heal, made people feel better. We all want to feel better. I watched the medicine men and women pick powerful herbs, nature's dangerous gifts. I learned to ride them through inner space, where there was indeed, finally, nothing. I found the holes in nothing, with nothing beyond. The road I came in on disappeared. I go farther and farther into this nothing. Nothing before me, nothing behind, nothing on either side of me, nothing above or below. I met myself there, my human spirit, my whole being coming back. We met and embraced, became a luminous animal. You want to find out what happens next? You can get your very own copy. Back there, there is an excellent set of merch tables back there. Thank you.
All right. So now I again get to introduce somebody who I believe is a really grand contributor to our community and just really believes and upholds all of the artists around him, puts together good work for all of us to kind of share in. He's a poet, he is a KUNM radio host who started the Spoken Word Hour, and the Sunday Chatter poetry curator. Please give it up for Don McIver.
I want to take a minute to recognize that this Scottish temple is built on land that is not ours. And since I am Scottish, which I just thought I'd say welcome to this place, even though I've never been in it either. But I'm also a very, very proud Burkinio. When I moved to Albuquerque a long time ago, I moved from Boulder, Colorado, and I was thrown into Albuquerque, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then came to Santa Fe and said, oh, okay, I get Santa Fe. And then it took me a long time to get Albuquerque. Albuquerque is very cagey and doesn't let you know her secrets. So, and this first poem is about Albuquerque. So it's called City Life. It's about my neighborhood. A roadrunner runs under the salt bush, jumps up on the outside table. Spotted black from the mulberry tree, the table marks the midpoint in our xeriscaped yard. A mile away, the loudspeaker from the minor league baseball stadium tells me the score. Again, yet I still don't know what it is. I'm close enough to know he's giving score, but far enough away to not be able to make out what he's saying. This morning, my first stop is many people's grocery store of last resort, a 7-Eleven. It's where I go when I'm too tired to tolerate Smith's for toothpaste, a Twix bar, and half and half. Recently remodeled, they sell cigarettes out the side window between midnight and 5 a.m. My wife and I bought a house in this hood and became one of 3 owner-occupants on the block. Our neighbors next door, Hispanic and Jewish, we think, own their place too, but don't seem to be there during the day, any day. 2 doors down, the only time the native seems to be at home is weekends. Always by himself, always working on something, windows, truck repair, weed pulling. 3 doors down are 4 poet friends who occupy the house and 2 of 3 studios out back. She's biracial Black Hispanic and he's biracial Black Anglo, and they fight, keep the fights to themselves as the biracial Hispanic Anglo poet shares his internet with the New Mexican teacher poet who can order Wendy's drive-thru from his porch. The subdivided house, now triplex, is mostly empty most of the empty time because the Asian landlord has really high standards. No one sticks around for long, and the empty spaces ebb and flow with registration and financial aid. Further down, the house welcomes musicians who advertise through some network, so bands book shows in their living room as cars wrap around the block, and late night conversations always wake me up. I don't call the cops as I lose interest. Time and darkness lulls me back to sleep. Their voices become the background noise added to the slow reveille of the city waking up, and the thoroughfare that really just serves the employee traffic from the 2 colleges. Each is less than 6 blocks away, and it's not uncommon to find myself at both on any given day of any given week. This is a great life. My neighborhood is always alive, yet we love this prime spot we call home. Not the density of much larger cities, we can eat almost any type of food with just a few steps. The bartenders at the nearest bars know me by name. The regulars clientele recognize me as I walk in dressed for work. We'll fix broken Audubons and take couches off curbs as often as we'll leave tennis shoes, broken shelves, and logs of Chinese elm. They're gone by the end of the day, and the trash gets picked up on time, and mail is always there. We mind a trash can at the corner. People use it even when it's full, and our bamboo has caused a fine for obstructing the view of the traffic up ahead. As people throw their butts on our lawn and ditch their illegal drugs upon occasion. The homeless never ask for change, but will stop me a block away, as if their work site is Route 66, and until they're on it, they're simply off the clock. This is the world we call home, and it feels like it should almost all of the time. If you said my life looked like a tiny splash in a much bigger city, you'd be right. I sometimes want to be a bigger fish, sometimes want my name mentioned with others, and sometimes want to see my name in lights, but most of the time, I just want to write. So this place also brought up, my grandfather immigrated from Scotland and then went to war for the United States in World War I. So if you haven't seen 1917, I totally recommend it. It kind of gives you an idea about that war. And so this is a little bit about his experiences, and it's called Bombing Party. 1, my grandfather was a champion. 2, though he probably mastered his technique on the Scottish Highlands before coming to the States, he had an arm. 3, had it been a different time, he might have been a baseball star. But this was war in a newly adopted country, so he became a soldier. 1, as an infantryman, they noticed how his hands were rather large. 2, with just a few sword practice, they noticed that he threw where he was looking, accurate, landing the grenade in the zone almost every single time. 3, until he was deployed, he was entered into contest, a champion grenade thrower, and his platoon took every prize. 1, as a member of a bombing party, he'd run from trench to trench and throw grenades. 2, after the trench was cleared, they'd drink water, smoke cigarettes, rearrange their gear. 3, on to the next, clearing them with precision throws as they want. 1, when you throw a grenade, you count to 3 before it goes off. 2, but sometimes it malfunctions and you count again. 3, yet if you move on, it can still blow at any time. 1, my grandfather got shot in the war and collapsed into a trench. 2, for 3 days he bled into the fetid water. A body stacked upon the field. 3, until the battle ended and the medics pulled in. 3, 1, he'd watch me practice pitching from his porch until the evening. 2, an ashtray full of butts would smoke in ruins, and he'd say, "You're holding it too long." 3, Just wind and throw. Look where you want the ball to go. 1. He nearly died so my dad could live a couple different times. 2. Yet it didn't keep my dad from enlisting and getting trained to land bombers on the field. 3. My father never talks about Korea. Just that he's glad I never went to war. 1. My dad and I love baseball and the slow count of the throw on its way to home. 2. The thud of the ball in leather, the crack of the bat against the ball. 3. And the crowd exploding as if the ball is up and gone. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Give Don MacGyver another round of applause. Make some noise. Clap your hands. Now, I'm reading the how I'm supposed to introduce this person, and it says that this person is a guitarist, a poet, and practicing a nizer. I don't know what that means, but I'm about to find out. I want you to put your hands together. Listen up closely to Mr. Paul Trujillo. There he is. Here he comes. Make some noise. See, that's what it is. Not only is Paul Trujillo up here, but so is Jeannie Allen, and she's gonna play the flute. Please listen up closely. Thank you.
Shakir agus shul go shul. Shul go chi an go sagas ile glam. Isco che tumo yoi slan. Shul shularu. Nightlights and lullabies, sweet dreams and flying machines. We were never the parents we dreamed. We are merely the parents we could be. Imperfect, we live on under darkling skies. We see what we see, we know what we know, for peace comes dropping slow. Those perfect young lie dead, daughter or son. We see more young ones march again to the song. We see craven old men selling guns. So many brave youth in the streets of Santiago, Chile, their eyes shot out by police, black patched like buccaneers, still they march. As Victor Jara, long dead, still sings. We cling to that last glimpse before death stings. We cherish the fading sight of age, wearing gold star rings. We don Kevlar and gas masks, perhaps, blacklight scopes, Facebook personas, bomb belts, leather chaps. We see war. We see America sliding tonight. We see as a blinded sniper might raging against the failing light. Yet, for all our griefs, old lullabies and sorrows, our amaranthine children dream bright tomorrows. When the young people dance, they do not dance forever. It is written in sand with the lightest of feathers. Gracias.
That was Bill Nevin, in case you were wondering. He also happened to set up this amazing event today, so you can give a round of applause for that. All right, next I'm going to introduce you a poet who is always kind of pushing the limits. He's somebody that I remember reading on open mics and just being like, wow, you know, there's so much that we can do to always push the boundaries and break the rules in our work and things like that. I really love his work and I think he's really interesting. Please give it up for Nate Maxon.
Hi there. Slight rearrangement of the furniture. I'm going to read two poems. First, I want to thank Bill, and I want to thank for setting up this event, but I also want to thank Bill and Jules and John and Danny and Stuart and Rihanna, who are no longer with us, the last two. And when I was a wee lad, all these older poets really shepherded me into whatever it is I am today. So it's their fault. I'm now too old to be an enfant terrible, but I'm going to try. I'm going to read you two poems. This first one is a rather personal poem, which is called Canticle of Days and Faces. And it's a riff on Philip Larkin, who's a great British poet, a poem called Days. And then I'm going to do some weird shit. Canticle of Days and Faces. The days in object form are what the archaeologists would pull from me, like silver teeth and burial rings from the hands of a figure in a tomb, like so. The days. They move like shadows of machines in flight, the way that children will smash ants wantonly for fun, or the slow way my father talks. All of this will go, the dissolution. If you squint, you can see them running through the knee-high prairie grass. It's how I would watch my former love while she slept, or how she'd hold me when I awoke gasping from a night terror. What remains? A white bird on a gray desert sky. How we carry the wound like a covered mirror up the mountain. Dare to go. The days. Long-legged animals, a moment ahead and a moment behind. How she snorted OxyContin, crushed off a mirror. The black well echoing all the things we've done. It's a witch's ritual. Pull off the sheet and point the mirror at the sun. My first kiss, a boy in grade school during the greatest game of hide and seek ever. All these ghosts, a corona of candle smoke. They never found me. I followed them down the halls, out of my hiding place, and they never found me. How he was taken away when it was realized. I have a theory, though. If you could take all the time, all the steps that you spent going to work, to school, to the grocery store, and so on, and put them somewhere else, how many times would it wrap around the earth? How far into the stars could you go? Faces emerged from the dust and the rain on the highway outside Denver. Music stopped, waiting at the intersection, but afraid to move until it goes. A tarot reading was once given to me. The Fool, the Tower, 7 of Swords, 4 cards, though. And lastly, you who I'm always conjuring at. When you were in the dim light of a room with the blinds closed, you looked at me on the edge of those days with such an electric clarity. Rain, the same rain, roaring across the rooftops and gutters, a ringing in my ears, and the stroke of your hand across my hair like a lullaby. They would stand and try to recreate the sky. Their own sky, but always the same sky, another sky somewhere. All my days are flying away. I've got a head full of winds. On a still hour, balanced, they speak to me in whispers, like the blue of empty swimming pools, the day is leaving me. Running, massive, can't see their heads for their height. Loping across the sands, indifferent like dogs, the bones of their masters buried, the same bones, the same sand. Deep and singing, reverberating, the echo of the hours through empty rooms forever. Okay, that's a heavy one. Let's have some fun. This is an older poem. This was in my second book, The Whisper Gallery. Take a sip of water. This is a poem. Welcome to my TED Talk, I guess. About how a long time ago, maybe 100 or more years ago, it was not an entirely rare phenomenon for the fillings in one's teeth to catch and transmit radio and television signals, and relay them using the mouth as an amplifier. And thus, the surgical results of tooth decay and cavities became correlated with schizophrenia, mimicking auditory hallucinations to a shocking degree. And that's all over now. Digital signals don't work don't snag themselves on dental work the way FM radio and analog television did. Not to mention that such implements are no longer made of precious metals. Which is probably a good thing, given the frequency of stories about the gold fillings being snatched out of the mouths of the dead. But I find it very interesting to note that there are numerous instances of actual paranoid schizophrenics tearing out their teeth, out of the suspicion that there were radios in there, put there while they slept by unknown agencies with sinister agendas. Often enough, the teeth were undamaged, milky white and solid. And while this phenomenon skyrocketed during the mid-20th century with the ascendance of television and FM radio as primary vessels of entertainment, it actually predates the creation of either of those enablers. As soon as the radio was invented by Marconi and others, some of whom claimed the idea just came to them, causing much dispute about who was the actual progenitor. As soon as that happened, members of the illustrious brotherhoods of the mad and insane across Europe and America began to tear out their teeth. The idea of the radio was more than enough to give them a push and make them eye the pliers. And those who weren't schizophrenic, having just not brushed so good some days, sometimes did not recover if they had the filled teeth pulled. The signals stayed. And while the switch to digital signals may have lowered the rate of either triggered schizophrenia or false positives, I'm not so sure the digital miracle is any sort of cure. Given the signals we're now deliberately sending non-stop to one another, we've become our own blackjack dealers at the crossroads. All the world is now a crossroads, and everyone's waiting in the night with a guitar case for the man to come around. And though I'm not quite a master at it like certain third parties present in the wire, I'll relate to you a few tales before I circle back around to my main points, which I will. You just have to take my hand and trust me on this. By the way, we're going to be focusing on our very brief and contestable golden age for whatever morals these anecdotes are intended to imply. No offense to the future or my present. So, in the late 1960s, a woman named Margaret Lovett was working with NASA on the Virgin Islands researching how dolphins communicate. Over time, she became close to an adolescent male dolphin given the nickname Peter. Peter developed the habit of rubbing up against Margaret's leg in the same way a dog might. Eventually, she stopped pushing him away and began to regularly allow him to, if I might borrow a metaphor, the use of which I'm not entirely confident about, go to second base with him. Now, here's where things descend into myth. After the project ended, or was shut down, it's unclear, her colleagues came forth and said that not only had she allowed the dolphin to jerk himself off on her legs, but that she had in fact engaged in full-on intercourse with Peter the dolphin. And that she and all the scientists working on the project had been allowed to use massive and regular doses of LSD in their pursuit of communication. She denies both of these later facts and says that no LSD was used and that she and Peter's relationship never progressed beyond wet humping, which is really the same as dry humping when you're a dolphin. I wonder how many fillings she had in her teeth, and if anyone has ever paid attention to the frequencies present in the vocalizations of dolphins. It seems obvious to me that most animals do not experience time the way we do. Time and radio signals have odd interactions. Digital signals, they show up with a snap of the fingers, like magic. But radio is an alchemy. It takes time and sometimes temporarily removes itself from time. The delay between sending out the signal and the receipt of whatever package of sound was sent. I believe that during a brief time in the mid-20th century, our antennae were really humming steady for a bit. Not long, just a few decades. Not all the messages may have been benevolent either. There might be warnings inherent in the medium. Hence, potential early adapters removing their teeth at the suggestion, at someone's suggestion. It's just a story, but then again, so am I. And the machinery of eternal return is built out of this coincidence. Another example from when we might have been closest to an edge, to thin air and impatient signals, is this. In 1972, psychologist John Calhoun built what he called Universe 25. He had, since the 1940s, built 24 other utopian environments for mice, and each time the result was the same: overpopulation and oblivion. The 25th was designed to be the most perfect world yet, with the results seemingly predestined. No predators, abundant food, enough mice with no genetic deficiencies to sustain entirely new and diverse populations, and within 55 days the amount of mice had already doubled. Food supplies were deliberately kept well above the demand for them, and it was the mice's own behavior that was guaranteed to bring the laboratory ceiling down on them. Past day 315, population growth had finally begun to slow, and the mice began to eat one another, prizing newborns torn from their mothers huddled in their nests. The male mice gave up defending their own territories and began simply seeking out the spaces of others, except for a group known as the beautiful ones, who simply ate, slept, and groomed as chaos unfolded around them. Today, the results of Universe 25, of 25 failed mouse utopias, are still being debated. They birthed the term behavioral sink to describe societal collapse in an environment of limited space, and it has been pointed out to me that the mice seemingly lacked entertainment, toys, wheels, all the things that keep a first world nation busy except food, sex, and territory. But I think entertainment is a mitigating factor, only extending the lifespan. The sink mimics the ocean, mimics the land, throws the voice of the announcer, and kaboom. You get the picture. Information has a way of traveling both forwards and backwards along the wire. Calhoun intended each rodent's corpse to be a warning to future humans, but then I suppose the markings on the pyramids saying "do not disturb" may have been a similar exercise in violent moralizing. Because when an Egyptian royal died, all his or her slaves were killed and interred too, so as not to let the pharaoh fend for himself in the next world. The next world makes me laugh uncontrollably. I have the laughing sickness. All us ugly ones do. We shake with it under moonlight, we compare to disco and dream of blotting out both. Time speeds up like a turning dial or a toothache, a sonar sound far below, an echolocation in the blue, a guitar string plucked once. I begin to believe in omens, a clear symptom, trading vision for clarity, all currency debunked. Only a current pulsing, jaundiced vein on good days, moving backwards through time. Which universe is this one? At least I'm not hungry, and I'm listening. I'm always listening. Sounds like the hospital doors, perhaps even comically small hospital doors, keep swinging shut in the wind. Or open. Open, shut. A mouth, a moment, a child wiggling that last baby tooth free, painless, a bird waiting inside an egg, and then outside, and inside. I could learn something from Margaret, dolphin fucker MD, who gets a sly smirk when talking about those old days in the islands. Something about shame and the circular nature of messages in bottles. For a moment, she felt herself reaching backwards through water. But it's all much sneakier now. Crude machines shot into space to drift. Some people do remember. And don't we all just want to play guitar like our warm-blooded martyrs did? Inside, outside, waiting for something to escape. Open wide and not come up for air or home again. Singing a red language right from the center.
Give Nate Maxon another round of applause. Make some noise. I told you guys that it's been known that Lawrence Ferlinghetti went through the Taos Poetry Circus. Well, Nat Maxon went through the Santa Fe Film Festival, just so you know. He was here. Okay, now, give him a round of applause. Now, let me tell you a little bit about sometimes on a Thursday evening, I'm cruising, no, and I hear a blues song come on the radio that grabs my heart and squeezes it and makes it so that I just get all full of the feels. No, you've heard blues songs like that. And then every time I try to find out, well, what am I listening to? I'm listening to KUNM, and who played that blues song was my favorite DJ at the Blues Hour, is our next poet. She's my favorite blues DJ, my favorite peace activist, and my favorite poet. Put your hands together for Mary Owishi.
Thanks, I'm actually on KSFR right now. Thank you. These days I need poems. Between my fingers, balking my pillows, spinning off the ceiling fan. I need poems to sweet the oatmeal, to cream the morning coffee. I need cupboards so full of poems you couldn't squeeze in another can of soup. I need a poem to lock my door, to start my car. I need poems to bubble up through the storm drains on my way to more poems, an office full of poems. I need poems to populate my screens, to ring my phone. I need poems to jump into the headlines in Arial black 200-point type, push out all that is not poem. I need a world of poems, a 7 billion voice poem speaking through 14 billion eyes. I need trillions of poems twinkling at me across light years. I need poems, 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 a universe of nothing but just to keep the light on, just to keep my head in a world gone mad, mad, mad. I was taken from my mother when I was 6 months old, and then she sent my dad back and said, bring my girl or I'll divorce you. So he brought me back, and then I was taken away again and never went back. And so these children in cages just breaks my heart. I'm so angry about it. I put my Facebook profile is my crying baby self, and I will not take it down until the children are released. So this poem is for them. It's only a 17-syllable poem, but it's called The Least of These. Jesus cries himself to sleep on the floor of a Walmart in Brownsville. And I'll read it again. Jesus cries himself to sleep on the floor of a Walmart in Brownsville. Maybe you can understand why I love the blues. It's survival music for those of us who've been traumatized. You are here. Yes, others get unearned advantages. You are advantaged too. Ancestor to ancestor, goblet to goblet, poured strength to strength through generations, centuries, tested, multiplied, strength to strength to strength. Poured into you, that's how you squeezed into this life, equipped. Yes, others get unearned accolades, but what reward is higher than that you are here? When so many times you should have died, in that dark room alone, in that dark room with someone who should have never been in charge. You are here hearing these words, so listen well. What gold trophy glory can match the fact that you are here? Less equipped, you would have died when that crazy man grabbed you in the street, when waters rose, when fevers raged, when you got that shocking news, when you were completely betrayed, when your heart was utterly broken. Not even priest or wizard could take such blood-red sorrow, paint this day in blues and turn it royal purple. You should have died. You should have died so many times, I cannot count them all. You should have died. But here you are, still here, still here, still dancing.
musician, a carpenter, and organizer. Please give it up for Mitch Reyes.
Thank you all. This was an invocation that I did for a film. It was a full dome cinema piece. This project was with animator Hugh Walker, and it was called Our Turn to Walk. Get up. We must go now. It is our turn to walk. It is our turn to dance. This world did not begin with us. A gift, a handful of dust, a path marked by those who went before. These streets began with a solitary passing. There are faces in the walls, green fields, songs for thunder. A child, long departed, a child not yet born. Get up. It's our turn to walk. This hurting did not begin with us. These battles are nothing new. There are faces in the walls, a whitewash of bone, a drop of blood, a promise broken. Mother, father, sister, brother, those we have forgotten, those we will remember. What can we do better? Get up. There's a music in the air. We must learn to see with the eyes we turn away from. Recover the hearts we have discarded, the faces we've worn out, the hands we once had, and walk and dance. It's our turn. We must go now. Leave. Leave something.
That was Mitch Reyes. Make some noise and clap your hands. One of the greatest poets in all of Albuquerque. I gotta give respect. Now, a while ago, you saw my daughter Sarita get up here and recite that poem. And she's what I consider to be a second generation poet. Like she grew up going to poetry readings since my wife was pregnant with her. Like it's just, she's always been going. And so she grew up writing and reading and being on the stage. But she wasn't the first second generation poet that I knew about. We had an example. And it started, I got to see our next poet grow up I met her when she was in high school, and I noticed her grow up and become a poet that has grabbed my heart and hurt me in ways that I can't explain to you. Her poetry is brilliant, it's heartfelt, it's painful, it's beautiful. Put your hands together for our first, because I didn't even tell you why she's a second generation poet. The poet you just saw was Mitch Reyes. This is Mitch's daughter, Serena. Make some noise for Serena Reyes! She makes her way up here to the stage. How excited are you doing this?
Hi. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you. I'm from Albuquerque, and I started really seeing that city as a mother to me and everyone who lives there as well. So this is a poem written from that perspective. Mother Burke, must be hard to raise so many kids. Watch the days boil and burn over the same small pot. Wipe the night from our mouths. Pour a heavy spoon of sunrise when we get sick. In the summer, you feed us watermelon juice. Try to keep track of all our sticky fingers. But some of us slip right through your hands like uncooked beans. And we'd rather go out hard than get chewed up. And some go real far. Some you never see again. But we never forget where we come from, Mother Burke. Some of us wake up at 5 every morning just to give you a garden. And other days you slice your finger on a gas station rose that smells like cigarettes and you still say thank you. Your hands cracked, rough like desert stone in a bucket of gray water and cheap soap, begging the rags to be clothes again. We know you get tired. We've seen you stumble on the 66 bus with your arms full of groceries and bags under your eyes so heavy you can't even lift your arm to tell the driver to stop. But you are grateful for that food. Been walking all day, and some of us can't even make it home. For dinner, you stare at another cold, untouched plate, and you throw it so hard at the sky and you leave it there, as sharp as a crescent moon, and let the clouds cover it up like dirty dishwater. We all keep secrets, but we can't hide from you, and you wish we could hide better, so you wouldn't have to know how many kids you've left at the bus stop all night long to be tucked in by the breeze of a passing car. How many children do you have? Tapping their arm to see if anybody's home before they let the stranger in. How many stray dogs beg you to keep them? And maybe there's not enough room in your heart to get every child's name tattooed, but sometimes your skin is like an old graffiti wall. Don't be ashamed of those lines on your face. We've learned to write our own names. You're still the one that teaches us we need to pray. And sometimes prayer smells like spray paint. Sometimes it tastes like rain. Sometimes it looks like a little girl wishing to be a hummingbird. And you need your distractions too. So you stain your lips the color of ripe cactus fruit and sneak out in your bare feet because your yucca spike stilettos are too loud and we don't see you again until there's only a little bit of night left, smudged around your eyes like leftover mascara, and the sunrise drapes over you like a worn-out party dress, and you don't know if you're dizzy from crying or dizzy from drinking, and some crooked man offers to take you home and you say, "Fuck you, I am home." Yes. I am home. And I can hear you, your strange lullaby that creeps around every corner, from liquor store to bosque wildflower, voice cracking like caramel glass bottles on the sidewalk, roasted green chili breath burke. May you never stop singing.
Beautiful stuff. That's the good shit we come here for, right? It's only getting better all the way through to the end. So we're coming toward the end of our performers list, and then we've got some poetry-centric film for you. And we're hoping that you'll join us all the way through to the end. So coming up now, we've got a poet who is listed as a Taos farmer, a poet, a water rights activist, and a filmmaker. I know that she's also involved with one of the films that is happening in just a little bit here. And she's somebody who I know just really has a heart for her community. We had a class together, and you know, she really exudes this like heart for the community, but puts that onto paper as well, and represents all her people and holds them in her heart every time she speaks. So please give it up for Olivia Romo.
¡Que viva el norte! ¡Que viva la poesía! ¡Que viva el Ibai Romero, el poet laureate! My mother, bronze goddess who flips tortillas that orbit around the kitchen table, mantequillas smothered on their surface like the Milky Way galaxy. Her cosmic identity born from the corn. Shilonen, my father, Cuerno Verde, turned her into Chaquehue with his love. Merecina. This union was like corn to the molino's slow grind between the blades of his chest and her breasts. In ceremony, this is when the prayer is the strongest. In the infant mornings when the sun and the moon exchange a brief kiss. I am born from this mush. La agua de la acequia, semilla de tradición, blessings from my grandfather who watches from the nubes playing his drum, bum bum. Bam, mi corazón, cuando soy bailando con los indios, bam, bam, mis ayoyos, like the sound of grinding corn. December 21st, 3 a.m., my father was awakened by the animas, giving his prayer to the east, and a message to the world, to his mother, who had passed away 19 years earlier on this day. After the bountiful corn he had harvested that season, we cleansed and toasted it until it became el oro del barrio, panning kernels of our history, native, sweet, and resilient, can survive any drought, climate change, adapt but never assimilate. My gente are the semilla y vamos a sobrevivir. Pero también necesitamos a vivir en armonía, paz en la tradición. Speak in our language so the spirits can. The ancestors are listening. So that morning, with the sound of the molino, I gripped the drumstick and gave a canto a Nuestro Señor Sol, los cuatro vientos, and to the corn mothers who passed on the sacred knowledge, language, and tradition to their sons. My grandmother was one of them. The keeper of our sacred native seeds, her children, my father. En mi lengua grito con fuerza, lágrimas y corazón para curar mi padre de las heridas en su alma. Cuando rebaron la tierra bajo sus pies. To the sky, with the wood stove burning hot by my side and the smell of corn, our home became a temescal, sweltering hot and heavy with corn breath. Dust. As if we were under the earth, reconnected, praying with the first rays of Father's Son. My father grinded and I kept drumming. And once the corn was done and the morning relieved us, we broke through the tribute like a ceremony. My heart was full. The energy was fierce, so along to his beat I danced, shuffled feet to the canto that he carried in his soul. Dedicated to the antepasados, y la vida buena, because corn is life. And that morning, my father and I were born again, reunited with our loved ones. Gracias.
Wow, the ancestors are here today. Thank you, respect. Give Olivia another round of applause. Make some noise. Show your love. Give me 2 seconds. I can't read your writing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That was. Give it up for Bill Nevins, the organizer of this event. Thank you so much because it's because of him that we're here today. Coming up next, I want you to listen up closely to our next poet on the stage, Gerard Makusha. Oh, I said that wrong. How do you pronounce your last name?
I'll tell you.
Oh, he's gonna tell us when he gets up here. Give him a round of applause as he makes his way up here to the stage. Keep clapping. He's funny. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I was a late addition to the list. My name is Gerald Marchuka, and I've just been in Santa Fe for about 6 months. So I'd like to read a very brief poem. And just to give you a bit of background, the poem is a jazz poem, and it was inspired by my vision of Miles Davis as the Archangel Gabriel. And it was also inspired by a legendary jazz record. So the title of the poem is So Blue, So Cool, a poem about Miles Davis. Hooked, harnessed, and held, I listen, not knowing how to sing. It is the sound of a stately trumpet, somehow speaking in the rain. Twilight and solitude, realization and acknowledgement somehow rising above the fray. An errant messenger, noble, vast, and true. A bluebird at the edge of cold air, pomp and frippery, royal blood, a wonderful circumstance, in the moment, yes, high above the clouds. So, it's just my brief poem. Thank you.
All right, are you still here with me? Yeah? A little bit, maybe? Okay. I want you to get all your little energies together, like in a ball. I am freezing. I feel very cold, and it's making me like 3 o'clock math class sleepy. So let's just like shake it out for a minute. Theater kids, weird theater kid stuff. Doing it. Woo! Okay. So we have some more incredible performers for you today to close out the performance section of our event here. I think you're really gonna like them, and I think they're a good fit to just bring it all in. So I'm gonna introduce to you the Mindwell Poetry Slam team, which is composed of Marcial Delgado, Anna Martinez, Kristen Patty, Lady Mullen, and Zachary Cluckman. Please give it up for Mindwell Poetry Slam.
Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to be here. I definitely think that poetry and film as a combined experience is the wave of the future for sure. We want to take a minute though to acknowledge all the amazing poets that have read today, so can we please give them one more round of applause? And also give it up for Webb, Casey, and Bill, and everybody that's hosting and keeping this going. So we're not gonna introduce our poems. We've got several for you real quick. We're just gonna kind of flow through them and let the poems speak for themselves. But we do want to just share briefly that the Mindwell Poetry Slam community is a collection of artists and creatives who are gathered together to try to create safe spaces and advocate for those who experience mental illness, recovery, resiliency, embracing identity. So we always like to say if you've ever felt stigmatized, marginalized, ostracized, or otherwise made to feel less than, then Mindwell is a home for you, and we want people to know that. So we are going to be sending this team out to several national competitions this year to represent the city of Albuquerque as well. One of several. So if you'd like to support that, we do have some books and CDs available in the back. Please come see us. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and rock some poems. We're going to start actually with a duet for y'all because we get the energy back up with a nice duet. So give it up, please, for Rainey and Kristen Patton. Yeah!
bomb over there?
No.
Well, I do. It could come at us at any moment.
Maybe it already has.
I'd be Bruce Wayne, all the coolest gadgets, fast cars surrounded by gorgeous women. Behind my dark mask and black cape, I could destroy what makes me weak. I'm a hero, damn it, and I've got the underwear to prove it. Dun 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 dun! No matter which character
or universe
we pick, we never play alone. Wherever I go, my brain goes with me. Which character would your anxiety be?
Harley Quinn, asylum psychiatrist turned crazy.
Gorgeous.
Quick to kill for attention.
Scarecrow, finally. A good reason for this constant fear.
I could share a moment of dread with loved ones.
Let them see what I see.
Feel what I feel.
An experience they still won't believe. No, my anxiety is the Joker. The smile without humor.
The clown waste of time.
No, 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 no. Prince of crime. Wanna know how I got these scars? No? Wanna know how I got mine?
My mother was an abuser.
My abusers found me in a parking lot.
It only takes
one bad day
to shatter a soul.
Turn child billionaire, vigilante hero.
Upstanding citizen, anti-everything.
Imagine what years of trauma do to a child whose mental health is not an imaginary friend. Why so serious? We are drawn to the flood.
There's a fine line between superhero
and the villains the world wants us to be. Stigma paints us twisted.
The killing joke is,
I'm tortured by battle scars you can't see. We play clowns to entertain.
Mask our faces with paint.
With pretend. Force a smile when no one believes our origin stories. Our brains exist to protect us.
Anxiety hardwired for fight or flight.
There's not always a pill or a hero to save us.
No peace of mind.
Just a mind in pieces. Joke's on me.
Can't keep my feet from tapping.
Pen from clicking. Thoughts from racing. Nights are sleepless with no backlight in my cave. Nothing to save me.
Except maybe cutting.
Crying. You and I.
Destined to do this forever.
Like Batman and Joker. One can't kill the other without first killing themselves. But whatever doesn't kill you makes you stranger. 1 in 4
will experience severe mental illness.
It's the only minority group you can join at any fucking moment.
The world outside praises
Bruce Wayne for empires built out of anxiety.
Self-hate.
The inability to sit still.
Wags a finger at me, stuck in bed.
With the same disease, which kind of makes you Two-Face. The next time you see me, remember,
it only takes
one bad day.
And if you ask me
to fucking smile, I'm gonna ask you, wanna know how I got these scars?
I think I'm the only person to call me an American. I've been called a spick, a beaner, wetback, Latino, and Hispanic. I think I've been called Mexican American by someone, somewhere before. Still, I was only seen as half an American. My mother's familia has been working these lands for almost 5 centuries. They planted their seeds. And our roots grew deeper than any piñon tree up in Chirili. Even before Santa Fe was the capital city. But my blood on this land even goes further than that, for you see, I am part indigenous, like the black bear, the yucca, the rocks, and the trees. Yet, as an American, I may never be seen by anybody. Every single weekday morning for 13 years, I pledged my heart to the Stars and Stripes. I memorized every word in English and in Spanish. I pledged my allegiance in 2 different languages. With my right hand placed across my chest, I can still taste the sweet words falling from my tongue. Yet I'm still not American enough. Do you know how it feels to be told you don't belong in this country? Yes, my father, he crossed the border illegally. He went by the alien's name of Joaquin. He came to this country when he was 17, and today, he is 69. He lost his wife to a killer disease. He raised 4 boys alone, and he sacrificed for his family. He never asked for food stamps or welfare, as some would love to believe. Yet, as Americans, we may never be seen by anybody. It was said that my people are stealing jobs, even though we are the workforce behind the economy. They spit on our culture and condone the separation of our families. They call our cousins illegal. But how can anyone on this entire earth be illegal? Especially in the home of the brave, in the land of the free. Some think of us with hate and spite while hiding behind bumper stickers supporting humanity. Freedom was not given to my people as the rest of the world was led to believe. Oh no, our freedom was won everyone fighting out on the streets, protests, boycotts, walkouts, and the organization of our communities, tear gas, beatings, and police shootings, all for human rights and civil liberties. Why must anyone have to fight for the right to be a human being? We love and we support all those who serve the American military, yet, as Americans, we may never be seen by anybody. Native American, Afro-American, Asian American, or Mexican American. I believe it's simpler if we're all just known as American. Is it because fried bread is more American to me than apple pie? Is it because every time I listen to Volver, Volver by Vicente Fernandez, I begin to cry? Is it because my heart bleeds red, white, and blue, but my mind thinks red, white, and green? Perhaps simply it's because I'm in love with my heritage, and I'm proud of my father's nationality. For all those who question my patriotism and doubt my being, fuck off, because I'm everything America means.
To the man who asks why I still hold my son's hand, I don't do it every day. I don't even get to see him every day. The moment you become a parent, you begin counting down to the letting go. My ribs are an abacus measured in beats of his heart and the number of moments we have left that he'll want to be this close to me. But in the time we have, we are studying the philosophy of clocks. When first built, clocks were given hands as their instrument of time. I believe this is the clock builder's way of reminding us to hold on, because time is a stampede of horses running straight at the cliff's edge, but the people we love are the parachutes we take with us. So when the road runs out beneath us, we do not fall. We cannonball off that fucker, listen. There's not much of it. So time is the greatest gift a man can give to his kids. My father gave me 3 gifts. A little red wagon he gave me for Christmas, a hand-stamped leather wallet he made for me in prison, and the hole in that wallet where whatever currency he hoped his memory would become fell out. No matter how poor I have been or become, I will never be my son's empty wallet. If all I can give him are palm prints whispered into his hands and memories of crossing the streets, he will know I was there between him and the trucks, pretending to pull the sun out from behind the moon's ear and put it in his pocket. My son still believes my hands can do magic, but I'll leave the escape acts for runaway dads. Those Houdini cowards whose families have been left holding the chains on their absence. I have held each of my children in the first hours of their lives. I am not gifted with wombs. Do not bleed sacred or know the secret name of the song that is sung when a child's first breath is taken inside of his mother. I cannot swim in that ocean, so this is as close to creation as I will ever come. But every time I hold my son's hand, I can feel God's heart beating. Why do I still hold his hand? Because he still wants me to. And listen, if we're telling the truth, aren't you really only offended because you're worried that me holding his hand too long will cause him to seek affection from other men? To the homophobe who's overly concerned that me holding my son's hand past a certain age will cause him to grow up gay. Fuck you. If my son grows up to kiss sunlight from another man's lips, then by God, I will walk him down the aisle, and if he'll let me, I'll hold his hand all the way to the altar. Listen. I have a theory. There is one secret that love shares with the math of the universe. It's the subtraction in the equation that causes the problem to exist. This is true for a man and his kids as well, so as long as he is reaching out, I will take nothing away from my son, especially these hands.
Meanwhile, in daylight on the darkness side, in a world full of weeping, yet so full of song, where every footfall is a prayer, appears and approaches in white adobe girl floated down from stars, barefooted across the plains, snakes and wolves at her feet, she of so many names, and yet anybody's baby, indigenous girl, thoughts flashed behind her dancing eyes where few could look, and those who dared saw pools of perfect blackness, themselves as they truly were, naked and revealed. And when she finally spoke, her voice the songs of waters upon rocks, cracked, choked, oozing, black serpent spew from being ripped gullet to womb so deep as to dislodge the electric charge of her beating heart. 1,000,000 years to bury what was best left buried, 1,000,000 gallons of pick your poison, slow killing all it touches, young mothers, supple babies with milk from breasts fed from wells and creeks where their cattle and sheep drink, where from the beginning have leaked and leached 1,000,000 gallons of radioactive waste. 1,000,000 gallons of oil they will actually claim. 1,000,000 buffaloes slaughtered for show. 1,000,000 smallpox blankets for the cold. 1,000,000 gallons of whiskey for your vote. 1,000,000 voters purged from the rolls. 1,000,000 children ripped from their homes and their tongues from their throats. 1,000,000 daughters right now being bought, raped, sold. 1,000,000 more missing and murdered, and erasure of their trail of tears leaves them cold. 1,000,000 unmarked graves planted in fields of unrequited hate, where she did not even count enough to be counted. But she counts. She's really all that counts. She's counting down. So when you hear that true west wind blowed, her name remembered, lonely drum songs burning across the plains, beware the rains that come, when his lament for her has finally begun. Oh girl, every time I see you will open her arms, palms facing the sun, and know the direction from which her enemies come. Binding and unbinding of her long glowing mane, whirling cloud of wind, hail, lightning appear in her name, unfurled, unleashed, the love of the wrath of the love of 1,000,000 suns. No watershed safe, no artery escapes. You better hunker down. It's gonna be a hard rain.
This is our last one. We're going to do one more duet for y'all, if that's okay. Can y'all give it up for the Mindwell Slam team one more time?
My father's tongue was built for spirits.
His temper built fires in the bodies of his children.
His hands whittled me from a block of singing wood.
Carved in his image, then erased my smile when it frightened him. Geppetto,
How many piles of children left
half carved before your knife found this heart of mine knotted in a block of wood meant for the fire. It was no work of your hands that made me a man. Can you imagine how it feels to be built in another man's image and know you were made only to be his mask? Unlike me,
You are made of sand.
what difference does a single grain of sand make to my smile? Maybe that's why you were so afraid of mine.
You heard laughter.
Translated to insult.
I knew your hands by their thunder.
A sound that split trees.
Once you slapped me so hard,
I carried steak knives in my pockets for weeks.
there were no thieves in our store.
Only you, climbing through windows to rummage the woodwork of neighbors, pilfer their scraps from ash. How much of its stain did you leave in my flesh?
When I ran, it was to discover a world without your hands on my strings in the world
Swallowed me whole. You have heard this part of the story. But you have not heard a whale song until you have played under her tongue. As I lay there in her throat, making the wood of my body a boat, I never once raised my voice to cry for help. You were beyond saving either one of us then.
When I heard the motel where you lived burned to the ground,
I came home to the ash, swallowed my fear of fire the way you swallowed a bottle of pills.
Months later, we found you on the streets broken,
A discarded marionette. Want to tell you, I understand now.
that your heart,
As dense as mine.
is what made you so hard.
The tragedy of our story is, I love you.
The way your eyes recognized mine
The day I came to life, I would have forgiven you still. All I ever wanted was a father whose pride was not in his own hands, but the sons they created. This is how I know I am a real boy.
not a puppet in someone else's story.
Fairy tales have happy endings and no mental illness. Japan was dead.
When the release you sought your entire life finally came,
I did not sit down to write a eulogy. I wrote a poem about hatred,
about anger,
for what you did to us, for building me in the first place.
I'd give up this gift, this feeling,
Emotional, real boy status to stand beside you this time. As you struggle with an illness that drives splinters through your mind, same as mine.
to share with you the 4 pills a day it takes me to crawl out of bed
Every morning, rituals of affirmation and acceptance to manage anxiety, depression. Your magic was not the carving of wood, but your skill at tying knots. Your leaving should have severed the strings, but I am still tied to your hands. They have not moved in so long. I've almost forgotten what it feels like to walk.
That was the Mind Well Poetry Slam. Make some noise for Marcial Delgado, Anna Martinez, Christian Patton, Rainy Mullen, and Zachary Cluckman. Make some noise and clap your hands. If you didn't already understand the healing power of sincere and authentic self-expression, that's what it looks like. Okay, now I'm all excited to show you. We now get a chance to watch some. This is the Santa Fe Film Festival, so we're gonna watch some films. We've got one titled Bendición del Agua by the director Daniel Sonis, and it has Levi Romero and Olivia Romo in it. So I'm all excited. I want to see what they're doing. And then after that, there's a film titled Farming by the director Jamie DeWolf, and it features one of my favorite poets. His name is Buddy Wakefield. And then the third one is Foxhole Prayer, featuring Irish poet Peter Kirst Murphy. And we're about to share these right now.